Howdy folks, and welcome to another Unblock Me video. Today we're going to be talking about conditionals and conditional statements. These are statements that allow you to make decisions and run basic code and kind of almost branch your code depending on various conditionals. So, let's get into it. If we have a basic comparison statement, which we've been over before, so let's say I have age equals 25, and I want to see if someone is an adult or not, right? I could always say is adult equals age greater than or equal to 18. But this isn't very helpful by itself. It's just a variable, another variable I want to check. So if we actually want to make some decision about this, run some code, I need a new statement. That is the if statement, the conditional statement. So the if statement is relatively simple. It is the word if, parenthesis, and curly braces. So the if is similar to other block level statements. So what that means is that the code inside these parentheses belongs to the if, and it only runs under certain cases. What goes inside the parenthesis? Well, any conditional. So for example, I could put age greater than or equal to 18. Okay, and we'll just get rid of this adult there. Now, I can actually do something in the case that person is a certain age. Well, let's log their age here. Age is, what's age? And in here, I'm going to say you are an adult. Now this code, I don't want to run if the user is not an adult, right? Because that would not be true. Actually, I probably should. There we go. All right, so if I run this, you can see age is 25, you are an adult. And if I change the age, 12, not an adult, and I run again, age is 12, and it does not say you're an adult. That is the power of the conditional statement. This code inside the curly braces will only run if this expression evaluates to true. So if age is 12, this is not true. I could write another one. If age is less than 18, also not log, you are a child. Now if I run this, I get you're a child, but not you're an adult. Why? Because this condition is true. So JavaScript runs, it says, okay, age is here, logs the age, it gets to this conditional on line 5 here, and it says, oh, this conditional is false, because age is not greater than or equal to 18. So it doesn't run this code, it skips to line 8, gets to line 9, says, oh, this is true, age is less than 18, and so it actually runs line 10. There's another way that we could do this as well. If you've got something where you say age greater than or equal to, and this is the exact everything else, right? I've got greater than or equal to, less than, I can also put, instead of that if, I can put else. Log. Not an adult. Now if I run this, you can see it says age 12, not an adult. Why did this happen? Well, what happens in an if statement is you can chain it. You can have multiple on the end of it like this. You can't do multiple ifs like this, but you can do an else. And what that does is it says, okay, is this condition true? If it is, we run line 6. If not, it falls through to the next statement. And it says, oh, otherwise, and else matches everything. Else will always happen. Otherwise, we do this. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, it runs line 6. Otherwise, or else, it runs line 8. So this is the fallback. And so it's a little bit cleaner as well, because these two if statements are technically related, but it's not always clear that they are unless you look at them, whereas an else always has to have an if statement. I can't just put an else here. You can see it gives me a little error. It doesn't. The else needs to have an if statement associated with it in this manner. Now let's say I wanted to actually do something if someone is specifically 18. We want a new message. Well, there's a special way we can do that. Else if. Now the else if, you'll notice, has the parenthesis because it indicates another condition. So I can say age equals 18, console.log, you just became an adult. Now if I run that, I get not an adult. If I change it to 19 and run it, I get you are an adult. And if I change it to 18 and run it, I get, oh, that's an interesting point. So why did that happen? Why didn't our else if kick in? Because that is age equals 18. Well, the way if statements work is they hit our age greater than or equal to 18. This is true. As soon as it said this is true, this is 6, this is the only block it will run. It immediately goes from line 6 to line 12 here. Even though this case also would have matched. The if statement block, a bunch of these chained if statements, will only run the first one that matches. So that's why if I, for example, had said not an adult, this matches everything. So it won't only run if these two don't match. So it goes downwards. So if line 5, if this is not true, it will check line 7. So now if I actually take that out and I say above 18 is the you're an adult, now I get you just became an adult. Because 18 is not greater than 18, so this one gets skipped. It skips line 6, it gets to line 7. It checks that condition. It says, oh, age equals 18. Okay, that is true. So we run line 8. Because we ran a block, we now skip the next. Anything else in this chain. Totally skipped. So that's an important caveat about the if statement like this. Sometimes it can be very useful. So for example, if you've got something where someone meets 5 criteria, you could test those 5 criteria, then 4, then 3, and maybe give them different messages for each one and know that you're only going to get one of those blocks running. You can also do individual if statements. That is totally fine, but this can be nice and convenient, and this is a more common way of doing things. You can have more else if blocks too. So I could put an else if, you know, let's say 16. You can get a driver's license. Okay, and you can see here now if I put 15, it's going to fall through to not an adult because none of these cases apply. But as soon as I put 16 and I run it, you can get a driver's license. It falls through this case because this case can't be true. It falls through this case because age is not 18. It hits this case, runs you can get a driver's license, and then skips the else because it's done that. So yeah, that is essentially conditionals. There's 3 different subtypes of conditionals. There's the if, which is the top level. If this is true, run this code. There's the else if, which like the else has to be paired onto an if. It says, well, hey, if the top condition here is not true, check my condition next. It's almost like a queue. It checks the conditions one by one. The else, which has to be paired onto the if block, or the if statement, is the default. It says if none of the above conditions matched, run this code. You're good to go. If the if finds the first block that matches the condition and skips everything after that. You can do a lot of other things with this as well. These take a boolean. But here's the thing about JavaScript is, remember, it will try to convert things if they don't match. So I could say name equals Bob, and then I could say if name console.log you have a name, else console.log you have no name. What do you think is going to happen? What is this conditional? It's name, right? It's a string. Well, if I run that, it says you have a name. Because name strings that are not empty are truthy by default. And we use the term truthy and falsey to indicate something that would, when we attempt to convert it to a boolean, becomes true or becomes false. So what happens if I empty this string? You have no name. Because an empty string is the equivalent to the boolean false. So if I put if name, it's false. So this doesn't fire and it comes down here. Similar, if I have something like null. Null is equivalent to false. Undefined is also equivalent to false. If I put in 0, well, actually, this is not the best example because it's a name, but 0 is false. Any other number, if I put 1 for instance, is truthy. You can see I get that you have a name, but 0 is false. 0, empty string, undefined, and null all are equivalent to false. Empty arrays as well, I believe. Let's try it. Put an array in here. Oh no, okay. An empty array is not counted as false, which is, I guess, a good thing. So that's why you might see something like users, right? And then if users.length, you have users and no users. We could say if users.length is equal to 0, right? And that would work. We'd say, oh wait, you have no users. I did it backwards. Users.length is equal to 0, you have no users, okay? But we can also do something like not users.length, and the same thing will happen. Because users.length is 0, and 0, if you put the not in front of it, we try to convert it to a boolean, which means this would convert to a boolean, and it would be the boolean false because 0 is falsy, which the not in front of it then makes it true, which then this becomes true. Conditionals and the way that comparison operators and statements work together is a little complicated if you really want to go into depth with it. If you're not comfortable with that, you always can say if users.length equals 0. Totally fine. Just keep in mind that we use as a shortcut a lot of times. We'll just put a variable, right? If users.length, users, else, no users. And this works because if users.length is anything that is not 0, so if I put Bob in here, then you can see I get users because users.length is 1, which is a true value. But if I put a false in here, or an empty in there, and no users because it's 0. JavaScript's just kind of funny that way sometimes. Anyway, this has been conditionals. There's a couple other types of conditionals like the switch statement, but I'm not going to cover them here because it's not as commonly used and it's a little more situational. But do feel free to look that up if you're interested on it. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.